The year was 1952. The setting was a remote, high-altitude training camp tucked into the jagged teeth of the mountains, a place where the air was thin and the tempers were shorter. Among the grizzled recruits and battle-hardened veterans was Elena. She was a transfer, a quiet clerk assigned to logistics whose presence was seen as an insult by the man who ran the yard, Master Sergeant Vane. Vane was a man carved from granite and ego. He believed that the uniform was a license to humiliate. He viewed the camp not as a training ground, but as a personal fiefdom where he was the undisputed predator. To him, Elena, with her measured movements, her refusal to engage in locker-room bravado, and her sharp, observant eyes, was a challenge to his perceived masculinity. He mistook her poise for fragility and her discipline for fear.
For weeks, Vane sought to break her. He assigned her the heaviest crates, the longest watches, and the most menial tasks, watching for a crack in her armor. But Elena never faltered. She moved with a strange liquid efficiency that Vane's blunt mind couldn't categorize. He didn't see the way her weight shifted perfectly with every step. He didn't notice that her hands, though calloused from pens and paper, moved with the precision of a surgeon's blade. He only saw a woman he wanted to humble. The tension reached its breaking point during a mandatory hand-to-hand combat exhibition. Vane stood in the center of the dirt ring, his chest heaving, having just dispatched a massive recruit. He looked at Elena, sitting quietly by the equipment rack, and a cruel smile spread across his face. "You," he barked, pointing a thick finger at her. "Clerk, you've been watching from the sidelines long enough. It's time you learned what it feels like to be a real soldier. Or are you only good for filing papers and staying out of the way?"
The camp went silent. It wasn't an invitation. It was a command fueled by malice. Elena stood up slowly. She didn't protest. She didn't look for an exit. She simply stepped into the ring, her boots crunching softly on the dry earth. She was a shadow, stepping into the glare of a dying sun.
Vane didn't wait for a signal. He lunged, a predatory, overextended strike designed to end the fight in a single, humiliating second. He expected the soft impact of flesh. He expected a cry of surprise. He found neither. In a blur of motion that defied the eye, Elena didn't retreat. She vanished. She pivoted on a dime, her body becoming a ghost that Vane's momentum could not catch. As he stumbled past, Elena's hand shot out, not in a punch, but in a strike so precise it looked like a caress. The edge of her palm met the nerve cluster behind his ear. The sound was not a thud, but a sharp, clinical crack. The sound of a hunter meeting a master.
Vane's body didn't fall. It disconnected. His legs turned to water, his eyes rolled back into his head, and he hit the dirt with a heavy, unceremonious thud. The air in the camp didn't just go quiet, it froze. The giant was down. The fight had lasted exactly 3 seconds. Elena stood over him, her breathing as calm as a summer morning, her hands relaxed at her sides. She hadn't even broken a sweat.
The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating the ego of every man watching. They looked at the unconscious sergeant, then back at the clerk who had dismantled him with the ease of a child closing a book. Minutes passed before Vane began to stir. When he finally opened his eyes, he was met not with laughter, but with a terrifying, absolute lack of sound. He looked up to see the base commander, Colonel Reed, standing at the edge of the ring. Reed wasn't looking at Vane. He was looking at Elena with a look of profound, somber recognition.
Vane scrambled to his feet, his face turning a deep, shameful purple. He lunged toward Elena again, his hand going for his sidearm in a fit of blind rage. "Enough!" Reed's voice boomed like a cannon shot.
Vane froze. "Sir, she caught me off guard. She cheated. I'll break her." "You'll do nothing, Sergeant," Reed said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Except perhaps thank God she chose to use the flat of her hand instead of her knuckles. If she wanted you dead, we'd be measuring you for a pine box right now." Reed stepped into the ring and looked at the men gathered. "You all see a clerk. You see someone you thought was beneath you because she didn't bark and she didn't bite. What you failed to realize is that the most dangerous weapon in any armory is the one that remains sheathed until it is absolutely necessary." He turned back to Vane. "Sergeant, you mistook her restraint for a lack of ability. You abused your rank to satisfy your own insecurity. In doing so, you proved you are unfit to lead. A leader knows that true power is not found in the ability to crush others, but in the discipline to control oneself." The moral was etched into the very dust of the ring. Arrogance is a fortress built on sand. Vane had assumed that because he was the loudest, he was the strongest. He forgot that the ocean is silent until it hits the shore, and by then it is too late to run. Respect is not something demanded through fear. It is the natural byproduct of excellence and humility. Elena had proven that skill does not need a megaphone, and power without character is merely a loud path to a great fall. Elena was gone by the next morning. Her papers were processed, and she was transferred to a classified instructor role at the Capitol. But her ghost remained in that camp. The story of the silent clerk spread like wildfire through the ranks, evolving with every retelling. It became a cautionary tale for every NCO who thought they could bully their way to respect. In the mess halls and around the evening fires, the story was told as a fable of the unseen master. They spoke of the woman who could drop a man twice her size with a single touch, not because she was angry, but because she was prepared. She became the symbol of the hidden strength within the quiet ones, the people we overlook every day because they don't demand our attention. Years later, a young lieutenant tracked Elena down, now an elderly woman living a peaceful life in the countryside. He asked her why she had waited so long to defend herself against Vane's bullying. Why let him push her for so many weeks? She looked at him with those same sharp, observant eyes and offered a small, knowing smile. "Violence is the last refuge of the incompetent," she said softly. "But once the door is opened, you must ensure it is closed permanently. To know how to fight is a gift. To know when not to fight is a virtue." The legend of Elena teaches us that the loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. True mastery is a quiet flame, and those who try to blow it out often find themselves consumed by the heat they never saw coming. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories from Tales of Courage.